Greetings, it is I, the Anax. With Halloween close approaching, and with me needing to finish my upcoming free interactive novel, starring me no less, I could not devote time to my YouTube channel. However, I'm going to try to do at least this video and one in October. As mind control fetishists, I'm sure many of you have heard of the Mandela effect. If you have not, simply put, it is the idea that somehow parts of history, either large or small, have managed to change. Since this has to do with the mind and Halloween comes, I thought I might have some fun sharing it with you, and possibly break your psyches in the process. There are several theories to explain what causes the Mandela effect. One option is that people simply have flawed memories. Yet, how can so many millions of people recall the exact same flawed memory? Some people think that different realities are merging. They postulate that these realities were closely linked and that some minor differences existed between them. Therefore, Reality A people remember slightly different events or logos, while Reality B people recall these as always so. However, some go further, speculating that some cataclysmic event occurred in Reality A, and scientists, or the universe itself, fixes issues like that by instantly creating a reality where sentient life, like humans, continue their existences, but it got some of the details wrong, which becomes Reality B. Some hypothesize that we are inside a computer, hologram, matrix, and so forth, and are part of a simulated shared reality, and that occasionally data becomes corrupted or a programmer outside the system changes the program, which causes slight variations to occur. Some blame CERN in Europe, a group of physicists and engineers that are probing the fundamental structure of our universe. The list goes on to some truly incredible ideas. In order to maintain objectivity in this video, I shan't go into detail with my own memories. Rather, I shall cover them and let you, my twisted, demented fans, decide what you recall. I dare say that a large number of you are likely to recall many of these as being different than their original version, and feel free to comment and discuss this phenomenon below. Oh, and do subscribe to me, if you would. These videos do take quite a bit of time. Now, let us begin our descent down the rabbit hole. We shall do this in somewhat chronological order. First, this is a portrait of King Henry VIII. You probably recall it from school. Henry stood holding his turkey leg. Have you ever seen this picture before? No. You apparently have not, for he never held a turkey leg. In fact, after extensive research, the man many recall brought turkey to England and made it popular, died 3 years before turkeys even made their way across the sea. What do you remember? Not insane yet? Well then, as a boogeyman, I'm not doing my job, am I? How about the Lindbergh baby? I'm certain some of you recall that child. On the 1st of March, 1932, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., the 20-month-old son of aviator Charles Lindbergh, was abducted. And now, let the insanity begin. Those of you born in the 80s or before may recall a TV show. The host's name was Robert Stack. You might recall a big episode being around the New Year, a 2-part episode covering Amelia Earhart and the Lindbergh baby. In the episode, you learn that these two people vanished without a trace. They never found the child, and Charles drove himself mad trying to find the child or even a body. There is a popular show named Family Guy, and perhaps you recall where they made fun of that very episode of Unsolved Mysteries. The Lindbergh baby falls into a toilet and vanishes, and Amelia is a witness, so Charles says something akin to, "Leave her to me," in an ominous voice. Alternatively, an episode of The Simpsons, you may recall Abe yelling out that he is the Lindbergh baby. Of course, if either of these scenes exists, it would make no sense anymore, because the Lindbergh baby was found. Did you know they tried and convicted a man for the child's murder? In September of 1934, Bruno Richard Hauptmann was arrested and, after a trial lasting from the 2nd of January to the 13th of February 1935, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. The state executed him by electric chair at the New Jersey State Prison on the 3rd of April 1936. Yet, some will steadfastly say that the child's body was never found and that his kidnapping remained an unsolved mystery. Many of you have heard of a man named Hitler, I would think. You probably learned that he had brown eyes and hair, making him a hypocrite. His idea was to create an Aryan race of blue-eyed, blonde-haired people. Imagine your surprise to know his eyes were crystal blue, bluer than my own. How about JFK? Many of you recall the footage showing his four-seater car driving down the road, or maybe you remember hearing the occasional conspiracy theorist saying that they thought it was the driver of the car what killed him. Well, that seems impossible, at least now, because even though the Time magazine photos of his car show it to be a four-seater, which may match your memory, it was actually a six-seater. That means there are two extra people in the car sitting between the driver and Kennedy, and thus I have no idea what those conspiracist people think now. Next, let us cover Tiananmen Square. You may remember when China locked it down through armed forces. Perhaps you sat watching CNN and observed the live footage from Tiananmen Square. There was a man that walked in front of the tanks. What happened next probably made a severe impact on your mind. The driver of the tank did not stop, and it crushed the man. Within moments, CNN cut feed back to the newsroom, but that horrific image caused quite a stir among people. The only problem is that he did not die. Somehow, though many recall the ghastly scene, it never occurred. In reality, or as some would say this reality, the tank stopped and a kind-hearted Chinese soldier driving it popped up and merely asked the guy to move out of the way. Which do you remember? The last historical one I shall get to, for time's sake, is Nelson Mandela himself. This effect is named after Nelson. Many remember his funeral taking over television. Apparently the fellow died in prison somewhere, and the news would not stop showing his funeral. However, though it has happened now, they recall it happening long ago in the late 80s or early 90s. Yet it never happened. I would cover more interesting historical facts, including the reversal, that is, things that exist that many people do not remember, like the attack on the United States when Germany blew up a massive ammunition store, damaging the Statue of Liberty. Many people do not recall, and so forth, but let us move on to a new topic: biology. Many of you learned about the human body in school, and some even went to medical school, and you might remember the kidneys being located down in the lower back. Perhaps you had kidney stones or had pain in your lower back from a kidney injury. However, It seems that the kidneys are actually located in the chest cavity, just below the heart. That's right. If you ever thought they were in the lower back, you are incorrect. The kidneys rest just under the heart in the chest cavity. Perhaps you also recalled the heart being on the left side of the chest. This is also incorrect. Your heart is in the very center of your chest behind the sternum. Some people apparently also recall their stomachs being lower in the body, down in the gut, and they would even undo their belt to make room for more food, but it appears these folks are wrong. The stomach sits just under the lungs, and if you fill up, you probably have trouble breathing, and undoing your pants or belt would not help at all. Mind control? Maybe. Let us discuss geography. Here is the world. Does it look right? Take careful observations of South America. Many people believe it should not be so far east or so far north of the equator. Here is what they recall. In fact, some say they were taught that it is South America because it is supposed to be south of the equator. Some also say that Australia was not always so close to Asia and the other land masses. They put it here, with New Zealand being larger and north. Yet, apparently, this is the Earth, with the much more easterly South America, and with Papua New Guinea being bumped up against Australia. Which do you recall? Growing up, I watched many shows and movies, as you will recall from my other episodes. One of my favorites was a comedic pair named Laurel and Hardy. Perhaps you remember them? Laurel often caused calamity for Hardy, and he would get hurt exclaiming, "Well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into." However, that is incorrect. It appears that he actually always says, without exception, "Well, here's another nice mess you've gotten me into." Another movie you may recall from childhood is The Wizard of Oz, and perhaps you recall the scene with the Wicked Witch sending her flying monkeys after Dorothy. Do you remember her saying, "Fly, my pretties," and cackling? No, she actually yells, "Fly, fly, fly." Have you ever watched a Disney cartoon called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Do you recall the witch saying, "Mirror, mirror on the wall"? Well, she does not. She says, "Magic mirror on the wall." How about the movie Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back? Remember it? Do you recall Darth Vader looking at Luke and saying, "Luke, I am your father"? Well, he does not. Vader says, "No, I am your father." James Earl Jones, who played Darth Vader's voice, is as delusional as millions of others, apparently. He absolutely states he read it, "Luke, I am your father," and cannot explain it being different. Some might also have thought C-3PO was all gold. Maybe you even had the action figures or watched the old cartoon called Droids, all about him and R2-D2. Yet his leg is truly silver. Do you always remember the silver leg? What about the rest of these quotes and movies? Feel free to comment. Speaking of movies, have you ever heard of James Bond? He was a secret agent, and there was a movie about him called Moonraker. There was a behemoth of a man, a villain of sorts, named Jaws. He had metal teeth that could bite through anything. After crashing, he steps out of wreckage, as does a lovely young woman. These two could not be more different. Perhaps you remember him smiling at her, baring his metal teeth, and she smiles back, showing a mouthful of braces. The two instantly connect and fall in love, yet she has no braces at all. Do you recall braces in her mouth, therefore connecting the two? I could continue on, regaling you with tales showing how strange a mind can be, like how Madonna's real name is actually Madonna, or how Mr. Rogers says it is a beautiful day in this neighborhood, not a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Or how, regardless of all the books and Saturday morning cartoons you read or watched, the Berenstein Bears are actually the Berenstain Bears, like a stain on your rug. Perhaps that is too old a reference for your age, and you grew up with Pokemon in the late 90s, and wrongly recall Pikachu's tail being black on the end. Some of you should be very freaked out now. How delightful. Finally, I am going to go over the more mundane information. This episode is meant to make people question their minds, discuss possible mind control, and bring about madness, so let's look at the brands you know and love, starting with Ford. Perhaps you lived in Texas or the South and saw pickup trucks stopped at every red light your whole life. Every commercial break has a truck commercial, right? Built Ford tough, you heard it a million times. Did you notice their rebrand with the little curl on the line inside the letter F? You could not possibly, because it always had that little curl in it. Another strange happenstance. Perhaps you drove a Volkswagen. Remember the logo with the merged W and V? However, in truth, you could not, because the logo never looked like that. It has always had a line separating the V from the W. Chick-fil-A, which some thought was chic chicken, is chick with a K. Oscar Mayer is Oscar Mayer. Fruit Loops is Fruit Loops with two O's in fruit and has always been. Captain Crunch cereal never existed. It apparently has always been Captain Crunch. Does that sound right to you? Febreze has only ever had one E, and the list goes on about so many things that people may have obviously remembered incorrectly. Are these people mistaken, or has some strange occurrence befallen us? Those of you my age, do you recall often getting yellow envelopes in the mail for Publishers Clearinghouse? Do you recall seeing Ed McMahon on the TV giving large checks to people that won? You could not have, because Ed had nothing to do with the Publishers Clearinghouse, ever. I only have so much time, so I covered this as quickly as I could for everyone. So, which of these did you remember? Were they all one or the other? Did you have mixed memories? Are some right and millions of others confused? The people that remember differently, do they suffer from some sort of same memory, mass delusions? Is mind control involved? I hope you enjoyed my little mind-bending episode, for some of you that is. The rest of you apparently will find this quite silly, since everything I covered you will remember as being correct. Feel free to use the comments section as a forum to discuss this effect, or go to our community forums and do so. Also, if any of my examples freaked you out, or you remember them, or even if it made you just think, please like my video. For now, I return to the Shadowlands. See you next time.